10, St. Louis.
I see him.
All right, Marty, so this is the Pelham Youth Hockey. We got kids all the way from Mighty Mites all the way up to high school varsity.
I know.
Ed in the back is the man. He's the man behind it. Ed, when I told him that we were getting you, and I agree, I actually played against, my high school played against Ed growing up, and I coached for him. You're kind of like the embodiment of what their program is. You breed scrappy, skilled players, so you're the perfect guy to be talking to these guys. Well, first of all, how's life after hockey right now?
Well, I wouldn't say it's life after hockey, but it's definitely life after, for me, playing hockey. You know, it's nice to see the youth hockey players here. I have 3 youth hockey players of my own, and 3 boys. I got 12, a 10, and a 7-year-old, and I'm head coach pretty much of the oldest 2, and I help out with the 7-year-old, the practices and stuff. So I'm actually missing a practice tonight, so I could use a little break. But I'm on the ice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, you know, sometimes for 2 teams. And on weekend, we travel quite a bit. And, so I'm in the rinks probably more now than I was when I played. So it's been a great place to be.
Earlier in your career, obviously, hopefully some of these kids are going to have the choice if they get to that skill level where they're either going to hopefully maybe go play college hockey, or they're going to go play major junior somewhere. You went the college route. Can you talk about what your reasoning was going that route? Obviously, I'm sure some junior programs wanted you. What made you go the U.S. college route as a Canadian-born player?
Well, for me, my parents were always really key and big on education. If I didn't get the good grades, I might miss a couple of hockey things. So I really push in that department. They always were pushing for me to go to college, make sure I get an education. I mean, we all have dreams as a kid. My dream was to play in the NHL, and you know, my parents didn't want me to just put all my eggs in one basket and forget about everything else. And I felt that the college really helped me prepare myself for life, whether hockey was there or not. Helped me develop myself as a human and not just a hockey player. And I couldn't have been happier with my decision, especially after 4 years getting my degree and obviously reaching my dream as well as a hockey player. But you know, I think I was ready, whatever was going to happen. You know, I was going to try to play pro, play in the NHL for a few years. If I was trying to chase a dream for a few years, and if it didn't work out, I had my education to fall back onto. So that was a big reason, and definitely my parents were a big part of that decision.
After your 4 years, you went into the NHL as an undrafted player. Did you find that it was harder for you to get to that level, being an undrafted player, like you had to almost earn your right more than a drafted player?
No, for sure. You go into the league as a non-drafted guy. You go to training camp. They have the first round picks in front of you, and second round pick. They have a lot of guys in front of you, and you have to. I always felt like these guys needed to show that they couldn't play, and I had to show that I could play. And sometimes the opportunities are, for a guy who comes in the back door and undrafted, your opportunity to be successful are probably going to be very limited. Where the first round will get plenty more opportunities to show what you can do. So there's a small window, and I think it's all about your frame of mind, your attitude, not taking no for an answer, being honest with where you stand and where you think you can be, and every day try to improve and get better at where you want to be. And that's definitely played a big part of why I was successful. And once I got that opportunity, and I got a hold of it and I kept it.
You're one of the few players to be lucky enough to win a Stanley Cup and also win a gold medal for your country. Talk about both experiences. They're always, for a European player, the big comparison is, would you rather win the cup or would you rather win a gold medal? Talk about, as a North American-born player, how important both were to you individually.
They're both very important. I think just having the opportunity to be, in a Stanley Cup final. I was in the Stanley Cup final twice. I was in the conference final twice. 4 times, twice we lost. But just to be able to go through in the playoff and go deep like that, and having a chance to actually play for the Cup, it was an unbelievable experience. Obviously winning it, it just makes everything right. But if you just focus on, the result, you forget the journey and everything that led you there. So for me, when I won the Cup in '04, it was one of those moments that, the Cup is on the ice after, and you're raising the Cup, but there's so many things that crosses your mind, and it's me when I was your age, and go and play outside, mini sticks in the basement, and the pretending to be some of my heroes on the streets and on the ponds, and the hard work in the gyms when I was old enough to work out, the ups and downs of trying to be professional athletes, and in that moment you win the Cup, that's just the result, the whole process and the journey that got you there. That's what really sunk in with me, and I actually got to enjoy my other playoff run more after I'd won the Cup, because everything's happened so fast, and you forget to enjoy the little moments that goes on in the playoff push. I really enjoyed it, even when we didn't win a couple of years ago with the Rangers against Los Angeles. It was an unbelievable journey, that playoff run, and it would have been great to win, but it takes nothing out of my experience, whether we won or lost. And the gold medal, I feel very fortunate that we're able to play and represent your country, because for the longest time the pros weren't allowed to go. So, when I was young, for me, I remember more watching the Cups, especially coming from Montreal. The Canadians won their fair amount of Cups. My dad was a big Canadians fan. Obviously, I became one too. But that's what I remember the most. And I used to love the playoff hockey as a kid, because that's when I could stay up a little later and watch the games. Regular season, the games weren't as important enough. My dad said I had to go to bed by 8 o'clock. So I couldn't wait for the playoff, especially if the Canadians were in. That'd be late night on the school night. So. But winning the gold was a great experience. Sochi was unbelievable. I got to go to Italy in '06. We didn't do too well there. They won in 2010. I wasn't on that team, but the Sochi experience was great. It was an opportunity to, obviously, to be with the best players in the world, and not just hockey, but the athletes. The way Sochi was, it was very easy access to all the other events. To be able to watch speed skating and some of the other events. So, no, I'm blessed I got both, but what really sticks in my mind is not so much the gold medal and the Cup itself. It's more like the journey and how everything happens in life. Sometimes the ups and downs, and you got to fight through it.
I always love asking a professional player this question. Messier was signed about a year ago, and he was signing a picture of him and Gretzky, and I just happened to say, Mark, Wayne's obviously the most talented player you've ever played with, right? He's like, absolutely not. He's like, if Wayne was here right now, he'd tell you he's not the most talented player. He's like, for me, he's like, most skilled guy I've ever seen was Alexei Kovalov on the ice. As a player, who do you think is the most absolute talented player that you've ever either played against or maybe just watched playing growing up?
Probably, playing against, it would probably be Datsuk. And it's not like we're talking, I'm sure when Mark answered that question, we weren't talking about speed or velocity of shots. When skill, you think about hands and shiftiness and, slippery, guy who's been, like a Kane, so probably my era in the last 10, 15 years was probably Datsuk.
And was there a goalie that just drove you crazy in your career?
I don't know. Sound pretty arrogant to not name one. Early in my early years, Dominic Hasek was special, because he did things completely different. So
kind of gets the
he was just exactly. He was not the typical, butterfly goalie, and he did something that definitely surprised a lot of people. He was very successful on it.
People, when we interview them, they always say, they can vividly remember their first goal. Do you really remember your first goal, like by frame?
Yeah, it was actually not a very pretty one. I didn't even know, I wasn't sure it was mine, that's how not pretty it was. But I just, it was a play to the net, and I just went to the net, and kind of like pitchfork at the puck, and it went off something, and then it kind of lost sight of it. Next thing you know, it's in the net, and everybody's around me, and I'm like, is it mine? Is it mine? They're like, yeah, it's here. I'm like, all right. So at least I got the first one out of the way, and it didn't matter.
I feel like you're perfect because obviously, like you said, you have children that are in the organizations, and all these kids are playing at different levels. What would you say to a player, let's say Pee-wee and down right now, what would you say is the most important thing for them to focus on as a player in their development?
Well, with that age, you guys especially, until 12 years old, like whatever you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like that window, there's a small window of developing skills and speed. You know, you're not into so much of position and understanding the game and this and that. It's all about repetition. You got to keep, you don't want kids to be waiting in line. You want that, it's got to be going quick and use the whole ice coaches, and so that the kids don't waste time in line, and not so much about positioning. It's really, you have that window of developing speed. A lot of, and I always say, and what I read about is this, especially at that age, kids like competition, so it's playing tag, it's chasing each other, and I have drill that I put like a small border that divide like the ice sometime for the small group. I take a small border and I have the kids chase each other. One's it and one's not, and they chase each other. They can go either way, so they have to change direction fast. That's just an example, but it's develop the skill and speed. They're still at that window. They're not in the window. If you're wasting your time at that age, if you're trying to teach positioning and this and that, yeah, it's important, but that's stuff that you can do in the chalkboard in the locker room. You don't want to waste that time on the ice because they're in that window of developing skill and speed.
And what would you say to, there's a lot of bands and there's obviously a lot of the varsity guys in the background, what would you say to a player of that age group, most important thing for them to focus on at this point in their careers?
Which age is that?
That's like 14 in high school.
Yeah, I mean, they get to a certain point where they're able to get in the gym, and I think at that age, you can still improve your speed by being more explosive, and that usually happens, in moving weights in the gym the right way, and some kids develop at different pace. Like for me, it took me a while to get to my height, believe it or not. But it's always trying to do it smart, but trying to get stronger. Whether when I was a kid, I was a gymnast from like 8 to 12, and it's like I was always a strong kid because of that. To develop my core, just my spatial awareness, learn to fall, this and that. It was natural strength. There was no lifting weight or anything. It was just a good thing. But as I got older, obviously I stopped gymnastics when I was 12 or 13, but then when I got like 16, 17, I started lifting weights, and especially now. I mean, back then we didn't know what you guys are lucky because now it's been studied and it's been researched, and it's so much easier and out there for you guys. For us, it was just I don't know, it was a prehistoric almost way of doing things, but we were just lifting weights. But you don't, for me at your age, you get a lot of distraction. You get 15, 16, there's so many distraction. And it's you have to, if that's something you really want to do and want to get better, you have to focus on that. I always say to my kids, you're going to get what you put in anything. Whether it's hockey or school. Well, you get a B in school, you study for 3 hours. Well, what if you study for 4? Maybe you got an A. You get what you put in, and then hockey is no different. And, it's being honest with yourself for what your game needs to improve on, and focus on that. And the problem is, I think people will always try to do the things that they're good at. Where let's work on some of the things. I'm not saying that you shouldn't practice on the things that you're good at, but let's be honest with ourselves, and what are the things you actually need to work on, and then you get that better, because we know we can do this. Can we do this better? And sometimes that's hard, and that's not as fun because I'm not as good at it. I'm good at this. So if you get them to shift their their focus and focus on their weaknesses and trying to get their weaknesses better, you know. And that's a tough thing to do and convince a kid sometimes. Sometimes they hear things they don't want to hear, but that's life.
What would you say, obviously there's a room, half the room is filled with the parents, and I think there's still I haven't played juniors in 10 years, I think there's still 3 rinks that have a picture of my mom up there that say, if you see this woman, call 911 immediately. My mom's crazy in the rink. What would you say to a parent, coach, now as a coach also, and a parent that has kids in the systems, to kind of put their whole mindset around their kid playing? What do you think is the most important part from a parent's perspective?
Well, I struggle with that too. Not my parents. My parents never said a word to me. My dad would say, just, well, it wasn't your best one today. That was about it, you know. Like, it wasn't like you should have done this, should have done that. Don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that, you know. The kids have coaches, you know. I think the most important thing is just let them have fun out there, you know, and judge them on if they work hard. If they like it and if they work hard. Don't judge them on goals, assists, or saves, or whatnot. And everything that you yell from the stands, they can't hear you. So stop yelling. And, you know, the whole car ride home too. It's got to be a positive experience. If they didn't do well, they know they didn't do well. Most kids will. You know. I would say, and trust me, it's easier said than done. I catch myself a lot of time. We're all competitive. We all want the best for our kids. But, you know, judge them on their work ethic. You know, it's like it's anything else though. If your kid works really hard at school and you know he's putting his time in it and he's bringing C plus B, like, how mad can we be if they're dedicated to what they're doing? Some kids have it easier. They don't work as hard and they get A's. It's the same thing in hockey, you know. But if my kid is the kid that doesn't work as hard and get A's, and I just focus on the result, and I'm happy because he's bringing A's, but I know he's not working hard. Eventually, it's going to catch up to them, whether it's when they're high school and college or in the workforce. You know, I think, you know, I always tell the kids too is you know, the enemy of great is good. You know, because some people get to good and they're satisfied with that. Not many people get to great. Is how do we get there? Well, you have to push. You know, and some people have the abilities to get there, they just don't have the work ethic. So I think as parents, it's important to understand that, you know, let's judge our kids on their work ethic, not on the result. We all want what's best for our kids, and A's and goals and saves, we all want that, because that's fun. You know, that makes them feel good. So we're always happy for the kids when that happens, but focus on work ethic and stop yelling at your kids from the ice, from their benches. Everything will be good.
Cup aside, what's your most vivid and best memory of your career?
It's hard to just pick one. You know, for me, I was blessed to reach my dream and play for a long time. You know, it's the whole journey. It's not, I can't pick one moment. You know, I had a lot of fun. You know, I loved the game. I loved my teammates. I loved the whole, like, team thing. So it's hard to pick one.
Well, obviously, as you can see, there's a ton of Ranger jerseys in the room. Obviously, when you were thinking about moving teams in the middle of that year, what made you want to come? You obviously had a no-trade clause. What made you want to come to New York? I know you had said it maybe the season before that, in the off-season, that you always wanted to end your career maybe in New York. What brought you to New York? What was appealing to you?
Well, New York Connecticut was home for us for, you know, 2004 on. We spent our summers here. My wife's from the area, and it was where we spent our summers. We had a house here. And I always felt it'd be a great transition for my family. My kids were young. They were getting into hockey, and it was like, I always figure, you know, when my kids get a little older, when they're like getting more serious with hockey, like 10 years old, when they want to, you know, I always felt like, let's get them home then, you know, so that just the climate here is more suitable for hockey than Florida. And for me, it was like coming home and having a good transition for my family. And they did well with it. Playing in New York, in MSG, you know, it's like I was in Tampa so long, I wanted to give myself a chance to experience something else too. I didn't want to retire and just know the way it was in Tampa. I think you become better people when you experience something else. And I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that they made it all worked out where we could come home.
Well, we're going to open it up to the audience right now. Kids, parents, does anyone have any questions for Marty? Yeah, you were asking a question before, so what do you got now?
At what age, did you think you were good enough to make the NHL?
Well, I always had a dream. I had a dream at a young age. But when it sunk in for me was after my freshman year in college. I felt like I didn't know what to expect when I went to college. I had a really good freshman year. I was 18 years old. I was playing against 20, 21, 22-year-old, and I was doing very well. And I felt, well, if I can do this, I felt it was reachable.
Anyone else? Questions?
Hi. What would you say the difference is growing up in Canada playing hockey versus your kids growing up in the States playing hockey?
Okay, well, the biggest difference is ice, and we had, I grew up outside Montreal, but there was probably a town of 500,000 people at the time, pretty big, but there must have been like 10 indoor rink, but every park had an outdoor rink. Like every park, when I moved to the house I grew up for a little bit, I was like 5 years old, and I would literally skate. I put my skate on in my house, and if you stayed on the side of the road, you could skate. You could walk/skate. If you went in the middle, you could see the pavement. But the side of the road was all compact snow/ice. I would walk to the skate to the outdoor rink, which was around the other side of my house, not far, maybe I don't know, 5-minute walk. And as I got older, my mom would let me go by myself, and in the weekends, if I played in the morning, I was there the rest of the day. That was our playground. That's what we did. And the biggest thing too is in the United States, you have your basketball, your football, your baseball, your hockey, there's so many soccer, there's so many things. Well, for us in Montreal, especially when I grew up, it was all of those was one. So picture all this is one. So everybody played hockey. There was no so I was 14, 15 years old, and we would drive by one of the outdoor park, and it looked like it was a good game. I thought, okay, drop me off here, and she would drop me off there, and then I would play there for a couple hours, and then the good game would die down, and so there was a place to warm up and a phone, and I would call my mom. This game died down. Can you come pick me up? So she'd pick me up, and I would go look the next park, see what kind of game they had there, and do that all weekend, and that was fun. What's that?
Your poor mom had to keep driving you around.
Anyone else? Questions?
How did playing for Team Canada's Olympic hockey team rank for you in terms of?
There was no doubt playing for Canada it was unbelievable. I got to do it in 2006. I remember, actually, I was in New York City in 2006. I was playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was in November, and I was at Nike Town in the city, and I was just waiting for a phone call to let us know if we were on the team or not. In 2006, we didn't do well, but Gretzky was the general manager. So when the phone rings, it's it wasn't Gretzky that called me, but potentially it could have been Wayne Gretzky that calls you, which is kind of cool. And when I got the call, I was such a special moment, to wear the Canadian jersey and go play. And we didn't do well. We won at Sochi, but it was my second time. I was older. I wasn't as impressed as when I was 20, and I was 29 maybe in 2006, and 30. Anyway, it was quite, the first time they told me, yeah, you're on the team, I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Was it hard to play against Tampa as a Ranger?
For sure, it was very hard. It's tough, they're my friends on the other side, not just the players, but the trainers, and there's guys that a lot of the trainers I won the cup with, like, I mean, they're a family. I was there for 14 years, I pretty much grew up there, and walking in the building on the road in Tampa, I know everybody in the building. You walk and you shake 50 hands before you go in the dressing room. It was tough, no doubt.
Growing up, who was your favorite player?
My favorite player was Mats Naslund. No, most of you guys don't know, maybe the dads do. He played for Montreal. He's number 26, he's a little guy from Sweden. And, I don't know why I associated with him, but he was my idol.
How old were you when you started playing hockey?
Playing hockey, like, for fun, 3 years old, 4 years old, like I said, in the outdoor rinks. Yeah, I was young.
Did you pick number 26 because of your favorite player growing up?
Yep, that's it.
Do you ever rollerblade instead of skate?
I used to rollerblade too, yeah, in the summer, loved it.
Was your number always 26 in the NHL?
No, I went to camp in Calgary in '98, and I made the team, and they gave me number 46. I didn't pick. And then a month later, they told me I could pick my number, and sometimes your number you want is not available, so I picked number 15. And 2 days later, I got sent down to the minors, so 15 was not very lucky. So when I had a chance to switch that number, I did pretty quick. When I went to Tampa, I was like, it was like a fresh start, and I felt like I was going to get a chance there. I just went back to my roots and took 26. Because when I went to college, I was number 8 in college at Vermont because there was an upperclassman at 26. He was 2 years ahead of me. So my freshman year I was 8, sophomore year I was 8. My junior year I could have switched to 26, but I had been identified as number 8 for my first 2 years. I didn't want to switch.
I'm a new guy, but I'm a good hockey player.
What's that?
What's that?
He said, I'm a little guy, but I'm a good hockey player.
I believe it. I believe it, buddy. That's awesome.
Were you always the best player on your team growing up
No.
as a kid, or did you get better over time?
Yeah, I always got better over time. I was always a good player. I wasn't the best. My kid I actually played with him in the NHL too, Eric Perrin. He was a really good player, and I felt like he helped me improve because he was that good. No, I've been cut from teams. I always, it doesn't kill you, make you stronger kind of thing, attitude, and for sure you need to fall, like, it's not whether you fall, it's whether you get back up, and I feel like I did that a bunch of times in my playing days, in my playing careers. I fell many times and made me appreciate the time that I was successful.
How do you maintain the intensity when the season goes on, and does fatigue ever hit going deep in the playoffs, and how do you guys maintain that?
Yeah, fatigue hits, injuries. A lot of guys you play with injury. There's no way that if you're only going to play games at 100%, you're not going to play many games. No way. There's always stuff, and you just got to play through it. That's just the way it is. And but with the nutrition now, the training, there's so much more. People are way more educated about it that it helps us navigate through a season better with the travel and everything. So it's definitely a challenge, especially when you go deep in the playoff a few years in a row. But I always say no excuses, play like a champion. So.
Yep.
Yes.
played NHL?
I played, how long? 17 years maybe? Yeah.
What's your favorite brand to buy a hockey stick from?
Favorite brand? Yeah, favorite brand. I played my last 2 years with Warriors. The technology in sticks now is unbelievable. You know, yeah. But I mean, you can't go wrong. There's a lot of good stuff out there. It's all preference.
Did you ever play on like a broken foot or like something like really injured?
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna leave it there, 'cause I don't want to like sound that I'm that tough. But yes, I did.
All right, final 2 questions.
In your NHL career, who's your least favorite team to play against?
You know, in my younger days was the Devils. New Jersey Devils. They were a good team. They were physical. They had Scott Stevens, Danica in the back. You were taking a beating. You went in front of that net and you were taking lumber. You know, and it's back in before 2004. The rules have changed a lot since then. It was war out there, and trust me, you paid the price when you went there. You know, and Marty Brodeur was obviously an excellent goaltender, and he played the puck every time, you know. So you dump the puck in, and Marty would come out and play it. They're really hard to play against. He would break every forecheck. And when you got in the corners with them, it was Stevens and Danico, and yeah, Niedermeyer could come out of there pretty good too. He's very excellent players. So they had a great team. They won the cup in '03. See, in '03, they won a bunch of cup nights, but in 2003, I think, was their last cup. We beat Washington in the first round, and we played the Devils and lost to the Devils in 5, and they ended up winning the cup. For us, it was a great learning experience, being beaten by the team that wins the cup. And the following year, we won the cup. It was like, I think the fact that we lost to the Devils made us realize, okay, this is how we need to do things a little bit better here, better there, and that experience was so valuable.
Last question. No, you best.
Have you ever had a signature move before?
Signature move? I think I was the first one to go backwards in the shootout. And so I can say that I guess people would associate that with me.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna take pictures now. After your picture's done, we're gonna start on this side. Then we'll go to the middle, and then we'll go over here. After the picture's done, the merchandise is gonna be back up in the other room. Obviously, the proceeds are going to part of the proceeds are going to the foundation, as I said earlier. But we do have 2 things from Marty right now. Marty, so we just wanted to thank you. Obviously, you've been an amazing partner for us since coming over to New York. So we just wanted to express our gratitude. Bring the so first.
Oh, nice.
So first, this is obviously your Mother's Day goal. I know it's very important to you. This is a canvas of your Mother's Day goal for your place.
Well, thank you very much.
No problem. And then I know you're going to be golfing a little bit more now.
Oh, that's nice.
This is a putter made from your stick.
That's nice. I'm going to Miami on Wednesday, too.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's why we asked if you were lefty or righty, by the way.
Oh, that's great.